Well, peeps, you wanted the major parties to find a way to work constructively together to make progress on important issues facing Australia. Fantastic news, you got it. The two major parties, Labor and the Coalition, have come together in a spectacular display of unity and goodwill to pass a bill that is aimed at shining a light on the deep, dark underworld that is the political donation landscape in Australia. How wonderful is that? Small problem though, it's bad. It's very bad. G'day, I'm Heath McKenzie, lead Senate candidate in Victoria for the Australian Democrats. So last week, Don Farrell, on behalf of Labor, finally took some action on political donations, something that has needed to be addressed at federal level for way too long. It's just so on brand that even when they want to be seen to be doing something about the erosion of trust in politics, the major parties do it in such a way that almost everyone will lose even more trust in politicians because they rushed it through both houses, didn't set up a parliamentary committee to at least take a look at it, and most alarmingly stacked it heavily in their favour, all while telling us how much they care about integrity. It's a doozy. Labor's original model didn't quite come to pass, but all that's really changed are some of the limits they've set are slightly higher than they hoped, albeit lower than the existing rules would have allowed. Now, I can understand someone looking at these changes and thinking they are a valid attempt to clean up the mess that is political donations and electoral funding. On face value, it's a positive change, but as you get into the detail and as you reflect on the context around why they've made the changes, a pungent odour begins to emanate from this bill. Make no mistake, these changes have been brought about because the major parties are both packing their dacks over the rise of community independents and major parties who are, election after election, eroding the traditional voter base of the big mobs. And this election is looking like being another giant leap in that direction. The primary vote is now effectively split in three. There's a third for Labor, a third for the Coalition, and quite incredibly, it's looking like getting up to about a third for minor parties and independents once votes are counted in this race. That leads to hung parliaments, and while the blue team and the red team both love being in power, they don't particularly like having to negotiate in the lower house to hold on to it. So back to the laws that were passed. In theory, the changes that provide more public funding seem like they would reduce the need for candidates and parties to sell their souls to the devils, aka political donors in the form of dodgy industry groups, wealthy business owners, special interest groups, etc., and therefore not be as conflicted when they get to Parliament. Great, all sounds good. However, in reality, the workarounds they've left hiding in the bill will still enable them plenty of opportunities to be wooed by their lobbying overlords, and the special, meet the candidate lunches that take place will all sit outside of these caps. The other issue is that it heavily stacks the chips in favour of incumbents. They've nearly doubled the amount of money a candidate gets per vote, assuming they get more than the 4% for first preference votes, which equates to an increase of around $85 million per election. But most of that money naturally flows to the majors as they are the ones holding many of the seats. Again, great that they're looking to lessen the influence of donors by providing more electoral funding from the public, but it blocks newcomers and just pours millions more into the party coffers to spend on flooding us with their cringy ads. Another thing, for some reason, Senate independents get half the administration allowance of the lower house independents, and they've provided no explanation as to why. They've also popped in a donation cap of $50,000 per donor per calendar year, which is indexed, so they don't mind indexing the money coming to them, but they won't index bracket creep because they want the chance to call it a tax cut every few years, but that's a whole separate issue. However, donors can still donate $50,000 to each of the state or territory branches of a national party each year, amounting to around $450,000 each year. Independents get shafted in multiple parts of this bill. This is 100% a mechanism to cut the independents off at the knees. This is not electoral or political donation reform, as either of the majors would have you believe. As the Australian Democrats are a party, we aren't restricted by these laws to the same degree that the independents are, but we see the independents playing a key role in us achieving our goal as the number one political slogan in Australia goes, keeping the bastards honest. So any move to limit their chances of election or re-election are not welcomed by our party. Now, unlike the majors, we're able to take self-interest out of it and look to what is the best outcome for the nation in regard to this issue. Effectively, Labor and the Coalition are trying to force the community independents to form an official party in order to fund their campaigns, so that it plays to the major party narratives that there is already sort of teal party that the independents are all part of. David Spears, of course, put this exact question to Allegra Spender on Insiders, which is exactly what Albo and Dutton wanted. Again, it's all coming out of fear that the rise of minor parties and independents is about to accelerate the decline of the major party vote. The other possible motivating factor behind these changes is to make it harder for an individual like Clive Palmer to throw a heap of his own coin toward buying a seat in Parliament. Small problem though, you could drive a semi-trailer through the gaps in the bill, and this Clive Palmer scenario could still occur. There are already good examples of political donation reform around the country in that, like most of the individual states have been working on this issue for state elections. So there's a bit of a blueprint there as to how the government could make some meaningful change in this area. But all Labor want at this stage is to be able to beat their chest and say, look at all the wonderful reforms we're introducing to improve transparency. There's a great article by Anthony Wheely in the W Today paper the other day. Anthony's somewhat of an expert in these matters, and he suggests this may even be unconstitutional. You know, if only there was a way to work all these things out before sending them through the House to make sure there are no bugs, you know, like a parliamentary review or something. Wouldn't that be nice? The Centre for Public Integrity has also done some good analysis of the new legislation, and you can head to their website and see that. Former Australian Democrat Senator Lynn Allison has put a piece up on the Australian Democrats website, and I strongly recommend that you take a look at that. And of course, when the election finally rolls around, don't reward these shifty buggers with your vote. I'm running in the Senate along with Carly Noble, and we've also got candidates running in WA, Queensland and New South Wales. You know, we've got a great track record of fighting for better transparency in Australian politics, and you know we'll work hard to turn this particular issue around. Thanks for watching. If you agree with any of my points, give us a like and a share. Send it to someone else who you think should be getting hot under the collar about all this, and keep an eye out for more videos from me. You can subscribe and hit the bell to get an alert whenever we drop a video, and I'll see you next time.
Authorised by Acre Streak, Australian Democrats, Nairn.